how can a digital asset, one with a market cap that, bounces around near an incredible $200 billion, have almost all of that value just sitting there, completely idle, unproductive, not generating any yield on chain?
It really is a fascinating question, isn't it?
Yeah.
A huge amount of value, essentially dormant.
Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take interesting sources you bring us, dig into them, and pull out the core insights, hopefully turning them into something useful for you.
That's right.
And today, we're plunging deep into the world of XRP. Specifically, we're looking at its enormous untapped potential and the really groundbreaking work some key players are doing to wake up what people are calling this dormant capital.
It's a significant undertaking.
Absolutely. So our mission for you today is to unpack how new infrastructure, new tools, and some big strategic corporate moves are aiming to change XRP, transforming it from this, well, largely sleeping giant into potentially a really vibrant hub for institutional finance.
We'll get into the problems, the why behind the dormancy.
Exactly. We'll explore those problems, look at the innovative solutions popping up, and consider the wider implications. What this means for the future of digital asset adoption, especially for the big players, the regulated entities.
And it goes beyond just XRP, really.
It really does. This isn't just about one cryptocurrency. It's about understanding how the whole digital asset landscape is shifting, how it's evolving to try and meet the, frankly, very stringent demands of traditional finance.
Yeah, the compliance hurdles are significant.
Right. So if you've ever wondered how major institutions might finally engage with crypto beyond just, speculative trading, then this deep dive is definitely for you. And actually, before we jump right in, just a quick note, your engagement, subscribing, commenting, maybe sharing your thoughts on this deep dive, it genuinely helps support us. It boosts visibility, helps the algorithm find us, and lets us keep creating this kind of content for you.
We really do appreciate that support. It makes a difference.
It does. Thanks. Okay, so here's where the picture really starts to come into focus.
Yeah.
All right, let's unpack this paradox, this thing that's been hanging over the XRP ledger, the XRPL, for a long time. We're talking about an ecosystem that commands, a truly massive market capitalization, often getting close to $200 billion.
That's a number that demands attention. It's huge.
It's staggering. It indicates real value, widespread recognition, a serious presence in the market. But, and this is the core issue, despite that huge scale, there's been this fundamental structural gap. And it's left the vast, vast majority of that capital totally unproductive.
Sitting idle.
Exactly. Think about that. Less than 0.1%, 0.1% of its entire value actually generates any kind of on-chain yield.
It's almost hard to believe when you compare it elsewhere.
It is. It's like having this enormous, incredibly valuable factory, state-of-the-art maybe, but it's mostly just dark, not churning out products, not generating revenue for its owners, and certainly not boosting the local economy, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
And to really grasp the scale of this missed opportunity, let's put it in perspective. Think about other big blockchain ecosystems, particularly proof-of-stake ones, right, like Ethereum now, post-merge, or Solana.
Right. Staking is fundamental there.
It's fundamental. In those networks, it's not just common practice. It's almost like expected for holders to put their assets to work. They stake tokens to secure the network. They jump into various DeFi protocols.
Lending, providing liquidity.
Lending assets to earn interest, providing liquidity to DEX, you name it. And all these activities are done with the clear goal of generating yield on their holdings. It's active, it's dynamic. Capital is constantly looking for growth, for utility, for ways to participate and get rewarded.
An ecosystem that encourages participation.
Precisely. But on the XRP ledger, for the longest time, that kind of dynamic capital use just hasn't really been the norm, which leads us to the crucial question, why? Why has this immense pool of capital, hundreds of billions in value, stayed so profoundly idle?
And what are the consequences of that idleness?
Yeah, what are the ripple effects? Not just lost yield for individuals, but what about the network's competitive position, its overall ecosystem development?
Well, what's truly compelling here, and I think the real underlying reason for this deep-seated dormancy, it really boils down to the very specific needs and, frankly, the serious limitations faced by professional fund managers, the large financial institutions.
The big money.
Exactly. These players, unlike maybe individual retail investors, they operate under increasingly tight regulatory scrutiny. It's a different world. And for them, the XRP ledger has, well, until quite recently, simply lacked the critical institutional-grade tooling.
Not just nice-to-haves, but essentials.
Absolute essentials. This isn't just a minor inconvenience, it's often been a complete showstopper. a barrier to entry for any capital that has to follow strict compliance and risk management rules.
Okay, so let's break that down. What specific gaps are we talking about?
Sure, let's dig into those specific fundamental gaps because they reveal a lot about the challenges of bringing traditional finance onto any blockchain, really. First, and maybe most fundamentally, there's no native staking mechanism on the XRPL.
Right, unlike Ethereum or Solana, where it's built in.
Precisely. Many major blockchains have these built-in protocols where you can lock up assets, support the network, and earn rewards directly from the protocol itself. Simple, relatively straightforward. The XRP ledger doesn't offer that direct native incentive.
So that immediately removes a common yield source.
It removes a common, often relatively low-risk way for institutions to generate yield and contribute to network security. For an institution managing, large amounts of money, the absence of this simple native yield path is a big operational and financial hurdle.
Makes sense.
It means to put XRP to work, they'd have to look at more complex, maybe less native, potentially less secure options, and that immediately throws up red flags for their compliance departments.
Okay, so no native staking. What else?
Well, beyond that, there's been this profound lack of what we'd call institutional-grade tooling. And this goes way beyond just staking. It covers a whole suite of robust, compliant, rigorously tested tools that big institutions absolutely need before they'd even think about interacting with an asset beyond just buying and holding it.
Like what kind of tools?
We're talking about things like qualified custody solutions. This is massive. Institutions need absolute certainty that their assets are held securely by regulated, trusted third parties. Not just on some exchange, not in a standard hot wallet.
They need segregation, insurance.
Exactly. Highly specialized, independently audited custodians that can offer segregation of client funds, robust insurance policies, regulatory oversight. Without that baseline, the operational risk, the regulatory non-compliance risk, is just far too high for them to even consider.
Okay, custody is key. What else falls under that tooling umbrella?
Then there's the crucial issue of verifiable proof of reserves. For any institution, transparency and auditability are just non-negotiable. They need to be able to continuously, independently audit and confirm that the assets backing any yield-generating activity are actually there.
That they haven't disappeared or been rehypothecated.
Precisely. That they're liquid, that they're properly segregated from the platform's own funds. This kind of real-time, auditable transparency has often been missing in the, let's say, earlier days of crypto.
Understandable concern.
Absolutely. And then, critically, battle-tested risk controls. Institutions run on extremely sophisticated, multi-layered risk management frameworks. These are designed to withstand major market shocks, operational failures.
Things we've unfortunately seen happen in crypto.
Exactly. So they need platforms that offer similar levels of control, real-time monitoring, and ways to mitigate potential losses, not just when things are calm, but especially when stress hits the system.
So things like automated liquidations, circuit breakers.
Yes. Real-time analytics, automated liquidation triggers, circuit breakers designed to prevent those cascading failures we've seen, robust internal controls, all rigorously stress-tested against historical data and, hypothetical worst-case scenarios.
And without all that.
Without those foundational components, the perception, certainly among many financial professionals, has been that trying to earn yield on XRPL was kind of synonymous with taking shortcuts or operating in an unregulated high-risk zone.
And taking shortcuts is not in the institutional vocabulary.
Not at all. In the highly regulated world of institutional finance, it's simply a non-starter. Complete deal breaker.
Okay.
So the cumulative result of all these factors, no native staking, lack of institutional tooling, custody gaps, transparency issues, weak risk controls, is that this truly vast pool of liquidity on the XRP ledger just remained largely untapped.
Just sitting there,
inert, waiting for some kind of compliant, secure bridge to meet traditional finance's standards. And this whole situation, it really raises a big overarching question for the entire digital asset space, doesn't it?
Which is?
How do you activate such a massive dormant pool of capital safely, compliantly, in a way that genuinely appeals to and serves the complex needs of these big institutional players, not just, retail folks?
It sounds like a multifaceted puzzle.
It really is.
Correct.
It needs a comprehensive solution. One that tackles the tech, sure, but just as importantly, addresses those critical regulatory and security concerns head-on alongside the practical day-to-day operational needs of large financial firms.
And that's precisely where Doppler Finance steps onto the stage. They seem to have recognized this long-standing challenge, this puzzle, and have stepped up to address it. And not just with a bold idea, but crucially, with significant backing. That signals some serious market confidence.
Absolutely. That backing is key validation.
So Doppler Finance recently closed a $3 million seed funding round. Now, okay, in the grand scheme of institutional finance billions, maybe $3 million doesn't sound earth-shattering at first glance.
But the context matters.
Exactly. The fact that this round was oversubscribed is really telling. It suggests very strong market interest and, more importantly, a deep belief from some pretty sophisticated investors in what Doppler is trying to build here.
It signals pent-up demand for this kind of solution.
Definitely. And it's not just the amount, it's who invested that really speaks volumes here.
Great.
The round was led by Reforge, a blockchain-focused investment firm. That signals deep understanding, strategic alignment.
I know the space.
They know the space. But beyond that, look at the participants. Digital Currency Group, DCG, a huge name. Maven 11, Hashkey Capital, big in Asia. GSR, CMCC Global's Titan Fund, Keyrock, Tenedy, Crite USA, Cluster Capital, Flowdesk, Boros, G20.
That's a serious roster of heavyweights.
It's a roster of true crypto heavyweights. The breadth, the reputation, the strategic focus of these investors. It really underscores the widespread confidence in Doppler's approach and their potential to actually build this crucial bridge.
And many of them are deep in market making, trading infrastructure. They see the gaps.
That's a great point. They have a unique vantage point. Now, what's also really intriguing is this term Doppler is aiming to construct and popularize XRPfi.
XRPfi, okay.
Yeah. It's not just a catchy buzzword, apparently. It signifies a very specific, very ambitious goal. They're not just looking to enable, faster payments, which XRPL is already known for.
Right, that's its established strength.
Instead, they envision building a dedicated, robust, and importantly, compliant financial layer specifically for the XRP ledger.
So moving beyond simple transactions.
Way beyond. Moving towards a much more complex, sophisticated, and yield-generating financial ecosystem. They want to bring the kind of financial mechanics we see in TradFi and increasingly in other DeFi ecosystems to XRP, but built from the ground up with an institutional first mindset.
So things like compliant lending, borrowing, maybe even structured products down the line.
Exactly. Imagine those kinds of services built on the XRPL, but specifically designed for the needs and demands of large funds.
Okay, so if we connect this to the bigger picture then, Doppler Finance isn't positioning itself as just, another DeFi project launching a new token or a lending protocol with maybe unproven security.
Seems different.
It feels very different. Their key differentiator is this deliberate positioning as the native yield protocol on the XRP ledger, specifically designed, as you said, from the ground up to meet those stringent regulatory and security standards.
Which directly addresses the core problems we just talked about.
Precisely. It tackles the institutional adoption hurdles, the lack of trust that has sometimes plagued early DeFi. They seem to be aiming for mainstream, regulated adoption, not just, the early crypto adopters.
So how does it actually work? What's the core mechanism?
Well, their core mechanism is actually quite elegant in concept, but it's profoundly impactful for institutions. Users, the institutions, they don't directly interact with complex, potentially vulnerable DeFi smart contracts themselves.
Okay, that's a key difference.
Huge difference. Instead, they deposit their XRP into qualified regulated custodians. These are established, trusted entities, maybe traditional banks moving into digital assets or specialized digital asset custodians.
The names institutions already know and trust.
Exactly. These custodians then delegate the XRP to Doppler Finance. It's Doppler that then takes these assets and generates yields through carefully managed, risk-adjusted strategies.
What kind of strategies?
Likely things involving market making, perhaps arbitrage or lending, but importantly, lending to a carefully vetted network of institutional counterparties, not anonymous DeFi pools.
So managing counterparty risk carefully.
Critically. And this separation of concerns is paramount. The custodians handle asset segregation and security, while Doppler focuses on compliant yield generation. It removes the direct smart contract interaction risk from the institutional client, shifting it to a more familiar, manageable custodial relationship.
That makes a lot of sense for risk management.
It does. And when we talk about comprehensive security, Doppler seems to be really going all in. They're integrating with leading institutional custody providers, names you'll recognize, like Fireblocks, BitGo, Copper, Sifu.
These are established players bridging TradFi and crypto custody.
Exactly. And the significance here cannot be overstated. By ensuring all yield generation happens off-exchange, using these qualified custodians, they achieve a critical level of security, They isolate user assets, mitigate counterparty risks.
So if an exchange goes down,
The institutional funds held in custody and delegated to Doppler should remain secure and separate, not commingled with exchange assets. This is foundational for institutional trust and compliance, directly addressing fears from past crypto blowups.
okay, that's huge. What else on the security front?
Well, their commitment seems to go further. They're talking about verifiable transparency through continuous, real-time solvency checks.
Not just a promise, but ongoing verification.
That's the idea. Constant, auditable verification that the system is sound, that assets are accounted for. Plus, all their yield strategies apparently undergo rigorous vetting by external auditors before deployment,
Before they even go live.
before they go live. This pre-deployment audit, looking at code, economic models, risk parameters, it adds another critical layer of assurance, ensuring the strategies are sound, well-managed, appropriately risk-adjusted.
Building trust from day one.
Absolutely. And as a testament to that, the Doppler platform itself has apparently already passed rigorous legal and technical audits. That establishes a strong foundation of credibility right out of the gate. It signals to regulators and institutions they're serious about doing things properly from the start.
It sounds like they're checking all the institutional boxes.
They're certainly trying to. And Carl Hua, a general partner at Reforge, the lead investor, he summed it up quite well. He emphasized that Doppler Finance represents, and I'm quoting here, a rare convergence of timing, market structure, and product clarity in the XRPL ecosystem that has long been excluded from mainstream DeFi participation.
That's a strong statement. Timing, market structure, product clarity.
It highlights the unique opportunity they've identified, right? Leveraging XRPL's strengths while finally addressing its historical weaknesses for institutions. He also expressed full confidence in the team's technical skill and, crucially, their compliance-first approach to, quote, set the gold standard for institutional yield on XRP.
Setting the gold standard, that's ambitious.
Very ambitious. It's not just about generating any yield, it's about doing it in a way that creates a new benchmark for security, compliance, and operational integrity within the whole XRP ecosystem. It could even serve as a template for other chains wanting institutional money.
Okay, so that fresh capital they raised, the $3 million plus, it isn't just for building the platform itself. You mentioned expansion.
Right, it's fueling a much broader mission, really activating that latent XRP capital and supporting a significant expansion into the United States market.
Targeting the U.S. specifically seems strategic.
Very strategic. Given the evolving regulatory landscape there, and just the sheer volume of institutional capital based in the U.S., their target audience reflects this. Regulated funds, established wealth managers, growing fintech platforms.
The exact players who need these compliant, secure solutions.
Precisely. Doppler is aiming to build exactly what those players need, tailored to their demanding requirements.
And you mentioned foundational infrastructure, too. Yeah, not just their own platform.
Yeah, this is really interesting. Beyond their standalone platform, they're actively constructing foundational infrastructure for the whole XRP ecosystem, building components that can benefit others too, other projects, developers, participants on the XRPL, trying to foster a more vibrant, interconnected ecosystem.
Like what kind of infrastructure?
A key piece is native support for RLUSD. That's Ripple's recently announced stablecoin.
Right, Ripple's own dollar-pegged coin.
Exactly. Doppler intends for RLUSD to function as a primary liquidity engine. Think of it like the core fuel powering a new wave of financial activity on the ledger, enabling efficient, low-cost, compliant value transfer, and serving as the main medium for various yield strategies.
So using a regulated stablecoin as the base layer for these activities.
It's critical. It allows institutions to move in and out of yield positions using a familiar, dollar-pegged asset, reducing volatility risk within the strategies themselves.
And how do they make it easy for others to plug into this?
Through APIs, application programming interfaces, and SDKs, software development kits, basically plug-and-play solutions.
Making integration easier.
Much easier. This is potentially a game changer for scalability. It allows custodians, existing wallets, other financial platforms to seamlessly integrate Doppler's underlying infrastructure directly into their own systems.
So a bank or a fintech could offer XRP yield to their customers without building it all themselves.
Exactly. With maybe just a few lines of code or a straightforward integration, they could instantly offer compliant, yield-bearing products on XRP to their own user base. It drastically lowers the barrier to entry and speeds up time to market for a whole range of financial service providers.
That sounds powerful for ecosystem growth. Has the market shown interest?
Apparently, yes. Even at this early stage, they've reported over $500 million in institutional capital already in their pipeline.
Wow, $500 million already lined up.
That's what they're reporting. It's a really significant figure for a company just out of its seed round. It clearly indicates that institutions aren't just theoretically interested. They seem actively eager for compliant, secure yield solutions on XRP.
Any comments from investors on this?
Yeah, Anna Bertha, an investment lead at DCG, noted that Doppler is, quote, unlocking a vast pool of liquidity that has long gone untapped. She also expressed excitement for the team's deep experience in the XRP ecosystem and across Asia's trading markets.
That combination sounds potent institutional focus plus deep market knowledge.
It's a powerful combination. Understanding both the compliance needs and the practicalities of global trading markets, especially Asia, where XRP has historically had a strong footing, positions them well. And it's crucial to understand this isn't about chasing those, sky-high, often unsustainable, highly speculative APYs, annual percentage yields that we've sometimes seen in other, perhaps less mature DeFi ecosystems.
Right, this sounds more grounded.
It's much more strategic, grounded, and fundamentally long-term. Doppler seems laser-focused on building sustainable, deeply integrated, and most critically, custody-secured infrastructure.
That distinction is key for institutions, I imagine.
Absolutely crucial. They're not promising unrealistic headline-grabbing returns. They're promising reliability, ironclad security, and unwavering compliance. And for a risk-averse institutional client, those things are far more valuable. They're aiming for consistent, respectable yield within very strict risk parameters.
Makes sense.
The Doppler team sees their launch as really just the first critical step in a larger strategic move. They want to sort of graft modern, sophisticated financial mechanics onto the XRP ledger's long-established foundation.
So, building on XRPL's strength, speed, cost, but adding new layers?
Exactly. The XRPL has been around, known for speed, efficiency, low costs, especially cross-border, but it hasn't traditionally had these sophisticated financial layers for yielding complex products. Doppler aims to fundamentally integrate those capabilities.
Interesting.
Their whole project seems built on this core conviction. The future of crypto belongs to platforms that can truly speak both languages fluently. The nuanced language of institutional compliance regulations, audits, risk controls, and the native tongue of DeFi composability.
Composability, meaning things can plug and play together easily.
Precisely. The ability to navigate complex regulatory demands while still leveraging the innovative, permissionless nature of DeFi, where different protocols and apps can easily connect, like digital Lego bricks, building more sophisticated services on top of each other. It allows innovation and efficiency without sacrificing those essential regulatory guardrails.
A bridge between two worlds, essentially.
A good way to put it. And their ultimate ambitious goal seems clear. By creating this robust, compliant, deeply integrated bridge, Doppler wants to make on-chain yield accessible and crucially safe for everyone.
Everyone, including retail.
That seems to be the vision. From individual retail holders who might want a more secure, regulated way to earn on their XRP, all the way up to the biggest, most sophisticated players like sovereign wealth funds and global asset managers, it's about democratizing access to compliant digital asset yield.
Which could fundamentally change how people view and use XRP and maybe other assets too.
It absolutely could. It could change how capital interacts with the XRP ledger and how a much broader spectrum of financial participants view and utilize digital assets for more than just speculation.
That's a powerful and ambitious vision for Doppler Finance, really tackling that dormant XRP capital. But while Doppler is focused on building that on-chain yield infrastructure, Ripple, the issuer of XRP itself, hasn't been sitting still either, right? They've been making equally significant, strategically aligned moves.
That's right, especially around stablecoins and cross-border payments.
So these seem like two separate but maybe deeply complementary efforts.
I think that's exactly right. Complementary.
So what does this all mean for the big picture, for institutional crypto adoption? How do Ripple's actions, particularly in the stablecoin arena, fit with, or maybe even boost, Doppler's mission to activate XRP?
Well, what's truly fascinating here is seeing how Ripple is strategically, and I'd say aggressively, expanding its reach. And it's doing so through some pretty significant acquisitions that align almost perfectly with this maturing global regulatory landscape for digital assets we've been discussing.
Acquisitions? Like what?
Most recently, Ripple agreed to acquire Rail. They're a Toronto-based payment company. And the price tag was substantial, $200 million.
$200 million for a payment company. What's the goal there?
It's not just a casual purchase. It's a direct, calculated move to strategically expand their stablecoin payment capabilities and their cross-border settlement services. The explicit aim is to cement Ripple's position as a leading player among these dollar-pegged payment operators.
Especially as the rules get clearer.
Exactly, especially as U.S. rules and global rules start to take clearer shape. They're positioning themselves to be the compliant infrastructure provider for a future where institutions use stablecoins routinely.
The timing seems important, too. You mentioned regulations.
The timing is incredibly important, almost perfectly timed, you might say. This rail deal comes just weeks after President Trump signed the Genius Act.
Which created the first U.S. federal framework for stablecoins.
That's right, the very first federal U.S. framework specifically for dollar-backed crypto coins. This is huge because it provides much-needed legal clarity, regulatory certainty for issuers and users. Before this, it was a patchwork of state rules and federal ambiguity.
A big step towards legitimacy.
A massive step. The Genius Act moves stablecoins out of that gray area into a defined, though still developing, framework. And on top of that, the SEC also released updated staff guidance for stablecoin accounting rules.
So, concrete actions from regulators.
Concrete, impactful steps. They signal a fundamental shift from ambiguity towards a more defined, mature operational environment for digital assets, which is precisely what traditional institutions have been waiting for.
And how is the market reacting to this clarity?
The reaction seems immediate and profound. Stablecoin issuers are rushing to comply with this new federal framework, making sure their operations meet the standards. And more institutions aren't just thinking about it anymore. They're actively planning, engaging, preparing to enter a stablecoin market.
Which is projected to be massive.
Projected to reach potentially an astonishing $2 trillion by 2028.
$2 trillion, wow.
It's a staggering projection. And it clearly signals this maturing regulatory environment that is absolutely crucial for any large-scale institutional adoption. Now, Rail itself, backed by names like Galaxy Ventures and Accomplice, they expect to handle about 10% of the global B2B stablecoin payment volume.
Which is already significant.
Already stands at around $36 billion. And their core promise is incredibly compelling for businesses. Shortening cross-border settlement from days, like with old bank rails, down to just hours, maybe even near instant, using tokenized dollars.
Addressing a real pain point in traditional finance.
Exactly. It's a practical, real-world application of stablecoins, tackling inefficiency and cost in traditional cross-border payments head-on, making things faster, cheaper, more transparent for businesses.
Okay, so this $200 million acquisition of Rail, it's not just a one-off thing for Ripple.
Not at all. It seems clearly part of a much larger, aggressive, highly strategic play to really stake a claim in the institutional digital asset payment space.
Has Ripple leadership commented on this strategy?
Yes, Monica Long, Ripple's president, stated explicitly that buying Rail will significantly help them, as the issuer of RLUSD, expand their customer base as these stablecoin regulations mature globally.
So, getting the customers ready as the rules solidify.
Exactly. The Rail purchase specifically gives Ripple a crucial regulated payments front end in key markets, Canada, the U.S., important emerging markets. And the timing is critical because right now, corporates and fintechs are actively looking for compliant, regulated stablecoin rails. They need the infrastructure to move digital dollars securely, legally, without regulatory headaches.
And you mentioned a buying streak. This isn't their only recent big purchase.
That's right. This extends a pattern. Just back in April, Ripple struck an even more massive deal, a $1.25 billion agreement to buy Hidden Road.
$1.25 billion. Who is Hidden Road?
They're a multi-asset prime broker. This earlier acquisition was absolutely crucial because it directly bolsters both liquidity and custody capabilities for Ripple's own RLUSD stablecoin.
Okay, explain prime brokerage in this context.
Sure. A prime broker in crypto, much like in TradFi, provides a whole suite of services specifically for institutional clients. Things like trade execution, financing or leverage, secure custody, risk management tools.
So by owning Hidden Road?
By owning a prime broker like Hidden Road, Ripple essentially ensures that RLUSD has the robust institutional backing it needs. Deep liquidity pools, integrated custody, the sophisticated infrastructure required to support large-scale institutional use. It addresses potential concerns about market depth and counterparty risk for RLUSD users.
Got it. So bolstering RLUSD itself. How is RLUSD doing, by the way?
It's been showing significant traction. It only launched in December 2024, so fairly recently. But it apparently already surpassed $500 million in circulating supply. That's remarkable growth in a short time.
$500 million circulating already. Are they seeking more regulatory integration for it?
They absolutely are. To further weave RLUSD into the traditional financial system and bring it under more comprehensive oversight, Ripple applied for a U.S. banking license back in July.
A banking license, that's a huge step.
It's a massive signal of their commitment to operate within established financial frameworks. And furthermore, they've added a major, deeply trusted player, Bank of New York Mellon, BNY Mellon, as a reserve custody partner for RLUSD.
Wow, BNY Mellon is about as traditional finance as it gets.
Exactly. These moves collectively demonstrate Ripple's really profound commitment to regulatory compliance and building trust with traditional financial institutions.
But it's still a competitive market, right?
Oh, definitely. While RLUSD is growing fast and making these big strategic strides, it's important to remember the landscape. The stablecoin market is still heavily dominated by Tether's USDT and Circle's USDC.
So Ripple has work to do to catch up.
They do. They're navigating a very competitive space. Their strategy seems to hinge on providing a potentially more compliant, more institutionally focused alternative to the established players. So if we try and connect all these different threads, pull back and look at the bigger picture, it becomes remarkably clear, doesn't it? Both Doppler Finance's ambitious initiative to unlock that dormant XRP capital and Ripple's strategic acquisitions and stablecoin developments. They seem to be converging, moving towards a singular, powerful, and I think mutually reinforcing goal.
Which is?
They are actively trying to establish a really robust, highly compliant, and deeply integrated ecosystem specifically designed for institutional capital within the broader digital asset space.
It doesn't feel like a coincidence.
Not at all. It feels like a strategic dance. Think about it. Doppler is building the essential on-chain yield infrastructure for XRP. Infrastructure engineered from the ground up to meet those strict institutional demands: security, transparency, compliance, directly addressing that dormant capital problem.
Okay, that's one piece.
Right. Then, simultaneously, Ripple is expanding its reach in stablecoins and payment processing. They're providing the compliant rails for tokenized dollars, unlocking real-world utility for institutions and businesses, getting the money on and off-chain compliantly.
So the efforts reinforce each other.
Absolutely synergistic. Doppler needs stable, compliant ways for institutions to move assets and manage yield on-chain. And Ripple is meticulously building out that stablecoin infrastructure, the payment rails, the regulatory compliance needed to enable exactly that movement and integration into traditional workflows.
It's like they're building the whole stack, from custody to stable value transfer to yield generation.
That's a great way to put it, creating a complete ecosystem. And this convergence, I think, represents a truly significant maturation point for the digital asset industry.
Moving beyond speculation.
Moving beyond just speculative trading or maybe niche DeFi experiments, this is about building the foundational layers that can actually support the enormous scale and the exacting requirements of traditional finance.
Which raises some big questions for the future.
It really does. It raises an important forward-looking question for all of us watching this space. What does this convergence actually mean for how we define and interact with digital finance in the future? Is this the tipping point where digital assets become truly woven into the global financial fabric? Or is it just another critical step on a longer, maybe more complex journey?
It certainly points towards a future where digital and traditional finance are much more intertwined.
Far more intertwined and interdependent than ever before, blurring lines, creating new opportunities, but perhaps also creating new points of potential centralization as these regulatory demands inevitably shape the landscape. It's a fascinating dynamic to watch.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive today. You've heard how two significant players, Doppler Finance and Ripple, are strategically tackling this challenge of dormant capital on the XRP ledger.
Building from different angles, but towards a common goal.
Exactly. We've seen how they're not just launching new products, but really diligently building foundational infrastructure. They're navigating these incredibly complex regulatory landscapes, all with the aim of making digital assets truly workable for the world's largest financial institutions.
It's a crucial moment, this convergence.
It really feels like it. Witnessing this exciting convergence of, DeFi innovation, the composability, the new mechanisms with the stringent demands of traditional financial compliance and security standards.
It's all about building trust, ultimately.
Building trust, creating accessible and secure yield, and fundamentally changing how businesses and institutions might use digital assets for payments, for liquidity management, for yield.
Yeah.
Really, beyond just holding them.
Yeah.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. As these institutional players, like the ones we discussed, forge these new compliant pathways for capital to flow into digital assets, what implications does this have for that core ethos of decentralization that so much of crypto was originally built upon?
Hmm. That's the big question, isn't it?
It is. Will this relentless pursuit of institutional compliance ultimately lead us towards a more centralized crypto landscape, where maybe a few large regulated entities control the key on-ramps and off-ramps?
Or the alternative view.
Or will it simply create new, more robust avenues for mainstream adoption that maybe ultimately benefit everyone by bringing greater stability, liquidity, and utility to the entire digital asset ecosystem? What stands out most to you about this fascinating, rapidly evolving ecosystem? Something to think about.